Oh, I think I'm dying. I've got a man's cold. I like to differentiate between a man's cold and a woman's cold. A woman's got a cold. She's getting the kids ready for school. She's getting herself ready for work. She's just getting on with it. But when a man's got a cold, it's completely debilitating. It's like, can you bring me a cup of tea and a blanket? Bring me a blanket to put on my lap. That's what a man's cold's like. I've got a man's cold. 2 weeks ago, this is fun. 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I came to town and there was a sickness and diarrhea bug going around. I thought, oh, shit, that's great. Every time I come into town, I pick up some plague. But I got away with it. I was here 2 weeks ago, went back to the chakra, I was fine. Not this time. Now I've got a double dose of fun. Now I've got the sickness and diarrhea as well as a cold. It's great. Could life get much sweeter than that? Anyway, I'm not living in the chakra anymore. I've come back to live in the town. I've come back to die in the town. Because I was offered a teaching post, okay? This guy from a tourism company in Lima. Lima's the capital city of Peru. It's on the other side of the Andes Mountains. His family comes from Tamxiacu. That's the name of the town here, Tamxiacu. Anyway, he comes back here and sees there's no English school, and he sees an opportunity. He comes to see me in the chakra, and he says, we're going to start an English institute in Tamxiacu. Do you want to be the teacher? I went, okay. They didn't have another teacher, you see. So on the one hand, I felt kind of obliged to do it. On the other hand, they were offering me some reasonable money to teach as well. So, yeah, I very reluctantly left the chakra. Now, I'm going to be teaching from 4:30 in the afternoon till 6 days a week. So I can still work in the chakra in the mornings. I just need to take a boat to the island, work till 1 o'clock. I can come back, get myself sorted, and then go and teach at 4:30. That's going to be the plan. Didn't want to teach though. But imagine my shock when I realised that the whole thing is being built around me. I'm the rock star. I'm the rock star. They've had all the materials printed up, and the materials have got my name on them. The big deal is the English teacher is from England. He's a real English speaker, you see. And every kid wants to learn English. I'm supposed to be teaching classes up to 25 in size, and yet I'm already teaching one class that's 31 and another that's 32. And I start teaching, and some parent shows up with little Johnny saying, oh, my little boy wants to learn English too. I'm like, yeah, well, good luck to you. But it's a serious business. I mean, here's the opening ceremony for the school in the plaza with the mayor. The mayor was there, and this is me. This is the first class that I taught. Here's the kids. So I mean, it's kind of a serious business. But the thing is, they gave me the briefest of interview. The interview was basically, hey, you're an English teacher, aren't you? I've been teaching English for 10 years in Tamxiacu, so I've become known as the English teacher. But I don't like teaching English. Well, you know why? Because Peruvians, they want to learn English, but they don't want to study. So it's a pain in the ass. When I teach English, I'm teaching the numbers, the alphabet, the colours, dog, cat, house. That's about as far as we get. Once I start to get into lists of vocabulary or grammar, it all goes to shit. I show up at a house to teach English, and the students asleep in the hammock or has gone off to Iquitos. Like, buddy, we had an English class today. I've come here at 4 o'clock on the dot, on time, and he's gone Iquitos. So I mean, I really had enough with it. My passion is the chakra. That's where I want to be. But anyway, I've accepted this teaching post. But imagine this. Briefest of interviews they gave me. Can you teach? You're an English teacher, yeah? Excellent. So, yeah, you can teach English in our institute then. Oh, right, thank you very much. They didn't ask to see any documentation, any certificates, didn't ask anything about my experience, didn't actually check out that I could teach. And then I show up and it turns out that I'm the big star of the show, Mike. Something happens to me, then the whole project's over. Anyway, there is a much more serious matter I need to talk about. Very serious matter. The Amazon River flooded in 2012. That was the year before I arrived. It flooded higher. It rose higher than it ever had on record. It was about 6 meters or 20 feet higher than normal. Now, what that meant is many of the surrounding communities, they were flooded out. Families were having to live in the roof void. All the chakras got flooded, so there was no plants growing. They could fish, so they weren't completely without food. But eventually, people had to be evacuated from their communities, and they were all brought to Tamshiaku. And they were given an area of land, which it turns out was owned by the government. It was owned specifically by the Ministry of Sport, and they were given that area to set themselves up in. Fortunately, Tamshiaku is built at quite a high level, so it escaped most of the flooding. Now, UNICEF came along to deal with this humanitarian crisis. What we had here was hundreds of people showed up with nowhere to live. Now, what they did is they built little white houses on concrete plinths, and they built 80 of them spread across 2 streets. These are the 2 streets here that we can see. But remember, this was in 2012, so this was 11 years ago now. The houses themselves were pretty pitiful. They had 2 small rooms. They had glass windows at the front and the back, which basically turned them into freaking greenhouses. And one of the houses that I came across when I first discovered this area of town myself, there were 8 people sleeping in one of these little rooms in these houses. Now this this area became known as Las Casitas. Casita means little houses. The little houses. That's what it became known as. Now, there were only 3 toilets to share between 80 houses, and they had to sink wells for water. And because so many people were using the wells would frequently dry up. Basically, UNICEF created a second humanitarian disaster. Good on them. But eventually, the people here are very resourceful. Especially the jungle people, very resourceful people. And they eventually noticed that they had a boundary around the little white house of maybe 4 or 5 feet on either side. Job done. So what that meant is they could start to build new walls around the little white house to build themselves proper houses. Put a tin roof on it, and then they had some nice room. That was good. The council got them act together, and they provided a municipal water supply. They piped water to the area, and they also built sewerage systems in here as well, which was good. So eventually houses could install their own toilets connected up to the sewage system, and they had their own area for bathing. It all worked out very nice. I was impressed at how well the people had done. These are poor people, but over time they managed to mass together enough resources and get themselves sorted out. And we can see examples of the houses now. This is an example of a house that belongs to somebody that didn't have the means to upgrade, so we can see what the little white houses used to look like. But some people built a new house made out of wood, some people out of bricks coated in cement, like this one. But all's well. And the town had expanded. That isn't where the humanitarian crisis comes in. Humanitarian crisis 3.0. What's happened is the Ministry of Sport has showed up and said, yeah, this is our land and we want to build a sports stadium here. So you're going to have to get out of your houses, we're going to demolish them all. There's where the crisis comes. Now, in occasions in the past, what's happened is the local council has said, sorry, you've got to move house, so we'll pay you for your house and that way you'll have some money to build another house. Well, what it turns out is when the people came here from the communities and those little white houses were built by UNICEF, they were only supposed to be in use for up to 3 years, and then the people were supposed to go back to their original communities. Now, this brings up one question. So why weren't the people told that right at the start? Because the river flooded out, but after 4 months it had receded. People only needed to be here for 4 months, but nobody came and said, oh, by the way, you've got to go back to communities now. Sorry about that. People were allowed to stay here, and they were given the impression that it was fine because they started building their own houses, they got water installed, they got the sewage system installed. Why wouldn't they think it was okay to stay? Yeah? Why wouldn't they? But because that was the original agreement, the Ministry of Sport isn't going to pay anyone for leaving the houses. They're going to say, we shouldn't even be here. So it looks like we've got hundreds of people living in these two streets who are going to have to move, find somewhere else to live, and they ain't going to be given any money to do it. Now, we don't know where this situation's going at the moment. There are discussions underway. To my mind, the common sense solution would be, sod it, we'll find somewhere else to build our sports stadium. But unfortunately, the law and common sense doesn't work like that when you start getting officials and the government involved. So, yeah, and I know a lot of people in these white houses. That's actually where I'm living at the moment when I'm in town. So, yeah, it's kind of a big worry, and yeah, we'll have to see how the whole thing unfolds.